All right, we got a Monday with no trade. Actually, one trade, and I'll explain it. But yeah, a Monday going into the day, I was pretty much already decided that I'm not gonna take a trade going into the day, and I gotta sneeze, bro. Oh well. But going into the day, I was pretty much like not sure I would trade unless if these lows, on the higher time frame. And let me just hide this stuff. There we go. I was pretty much certain that I wouldn't take a trade unless if we took this high or this low and then got a certain reaction. Because from Discords I've been in, from watching Justin, I was in his Tactical Traders Discord for a while. Recently left because I got what I needed. But what I've learned is on Mondays and when we're in an accumulation phase, which is this, we're in an accumulation. I've learned that it's just typically not to your favor, especially on a no news Monday, to try and place any trades until we get out of this range and we have a clear higher time frame draw. Because right now we don't have a clear draw in liquidity. We're not bearish per se, but we're also not bullish. So we have no real clean draw in liquidity unless if we displace above highs, create fair value gaps. But in this accumulation, you don't know if you're going to go up or down. So going into the morning, keeping that in mind, I knew I probably wasn't going to find a trade. So going into the morning, we get a sell-off here, and I'll put my drawings back on the chart. We create an SMT here. I'm going to get rid of these. We create a bullish SMT. So at the time, ES did not take this low. NQ did. We had absolutely no displacement through it. My first trade was when we broke this 1 minute fair value gap to the upside or to the downside. When we inversed it, I got in. Went to break even here because that was a 5 minute bearish fair value gap. And I was lower size. I was on 2 micros instead of 5 micros because of price action. So we had an SMT. And then we got in there, went to break even when it got on the 5 minute. And then it stopped us out at break even. After this point, I wasn't looking to really touch anything else because there was no reason for us to go lower initially because we had just taken the low with manipulation, SMT. I was expecting higher price. And then we just tapped the 5 minute, but we had the bullish imbalance, so there's no reason for me to validate shorts. But I also didn't want to just jump into a long because of the price action we saw, and then that ended up being a good idea because we were so slow. Then we create another SMT here, a bullish, because we didn't take the low, ES did. Price starts to speed up eventually right here. We hold this fair value gap, pretty ugly, but we hold and then we run straight up to these highs. We run straight up to the highs, leaving behind a 15-minute fair value gap right here, bullish. And then we end up coming down, holding the 5 minute, coming back up one more time, sweeping the high. And this is kind of where we're at in price right now. And we're starting to sell off. The reason I'm not looking to take any trades, even though this is a sell model that we're in, is just because on a no news Monday, I've learned that just price is really inefficient and there's no real clear draw because in the higher time frame, we're still just in this accumulation. So yes, we took this high, but this high is more important anyways. And there's no real target to the downside. So there's just nothing super clean for me. So I'll probably be on paper for the rest of the day. And that brings me into the main point I wanted to talk about for this charting session. And that's just knowing when and when not to trade, right? So right here, you could look at this as price did exactly what I wanted to, right? So I'd be like, okay, why didn't I get a trade? Because even though we had an SMT, that was confirmed bullish. And then we had another SMT internal to confirm. We were holding for value gap. We inversed. And we take the high. Boom, perfect trade. What was that? It was a 80-point trade. That would have been a great trade. But just because the market moves how you expect it to, that just means that your concepts and ideas and understanding of the market is good. Doesn't mean that you need to have a trade just because you know where price is going to go. Even if I think price is going to come down here now, doesn't mean I need to find a trade in here, because on a day like today, you can get just chopped up in this type of action, and it can do whatever it wants, right? And that's something that comes with experience. And that's what my point is that you have to learn from the right people, right? And even Dodgy's how I trade my inversions, where I learned them. Now, I never went into his Discord or anything, but I learned a lot from him. And I saw him just post on Instagram, and he was talking about this exact setup here. He said he didn't take it because of the signature and price wasn't clean. We had 2 fair value gaps, and the risk wasn't good. So it just kind of shows that I'm on the right path of knowing when and when not to trade. And then after we take this high, there's no reason to take a trade up here, even though price could come up to this target. Price could come up here, but there's no reason to trade to that, because we already took the high. We already failed to displace here. And we never got a clean setup. We never broke these fair value gaps. We never pushed back up, so there's no setup there. And then why the sell model doesn't look too good. Let's see the 15 minute. 15 minute could close below this. The sell model doesn't look bad. We're holding this 5 minute bearish right here. We're holding the 5 minute bearish. And then we ended up displacing through this low. So this isn't the worst sell model, but I just don't think it's clean enough. We have all these lows that haven't been taken. But even though I know this low is probably going to be the draw in liquidity, I don't need to take trades to try and find it, because, it's just not super, super high quality, right? And that's why I'm going to go to paper for the rest of the day, unless if I see something really, really good out of nowhere, I'll go on my actual funded. But again, you just have to know from experience, right? Like, I have 8 months experience of trading. I've learned that there's just days that even if I take a win here, or if I take a loss here, it's just not going to feel great. It's not going to feel great to take a loss on this trade here. And there's no real opportunity for what I traded, and that's fine. There's no clean inverse fair value gap here. Maybe this one, but that's not very good. There's no clean inverse fair value gap there. We were in a big 15-minute fair value gap here, so it's really hard to go bearish from here just alone when we have higher highs. This model wasn't very clean and inverse. I tried to take it, and then got stopped at break even. Then it chopped. So there was no real model for me anyways, and that's something you got to learn too, is that you can't be stressed out about not finding a trade, not making money, because I know, like last week, and I still trade 5 micros. There's people that trade 5 full contracts, right? But 5 micros, I had 2 $400 plus trades. I had a $400 and a $480 win. So why would I stress myself out about trying to trade this stuff when I know if I find a good setup, I'll make $300, $400, $500, $600, and that's still on micros. So imagine when I get my discipline and psychology perfect, or as close to perfect as I can. Imagine when that psychology is good, and then you're doing like 5 full contracts, because there's nothing different between 5 full contracts and 5 micros. It's just your discipline psychology. So imagine that 5 micro day with a 5 full contract day. That's $4,000, $4,800. That's almost 10K week from trading, and that's just 2 setups. So you can't stress yourself out about, oh, I didn't get a trade today, because it doesn't matter. As long as you're taking good trades and taking winners, then you're going to be paid for. You don't get paid for your time in the market. That's what Justin was always saying when I was in his Discord. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for your decisions. And was there any decision that I could have made today that was smart? I don't think so. And that's why I'm not disappointed with not making money today and not finding a trade. And that's why it's important who you learn from, because people are going to sell you a dream that they're finding trades constantly, and there might be strategies that work that people have. Like maybe someone has a trade strategy today that worked perfectly today, but everyone's strategy is going to be different. Stick to one thing and keep mastering it, because when your trade's there, it's really clear. And that's the thing too that I've got with experience, is that when I see a proper trade setup, it is so obvious that I have to take it, right? And when there's nothing obvious, like today, don't force it. There was a few times where I was thinking about getting a trade. I saw something and I just felt kind of nervous because it wasn't exactly what I needed to see, and that is perfectly fine. That's what you want to do. If you don't see exactly what you need to see, then you shouldn't be trading because it means, you know, it's probably not going to be a great opportunity for you to risk money. You know, everything's a business decision in trading. Do you want to risk money on a trade? And, you know, just because I think price is going to go a certain direction doesn't give me a reason to trade it. But another thing, yeah, just about the people we follow. No News Monday. So I learned from Justin and Dodgy are probably the main two people I learned, and TJR. But I started watching him at the beginning, learned from him, moved on. But TJR didn't really give me too much of the intricacies, but I learned like fair value gap, break of structure, liquidity sweep, stuff like that. But Justin and Dodgy were my real people that I watched. Justin more than Dodgy. Dodgy's more for my entries. Justin's more for my price structure. So I understand that this is probably, the draw is probably lower just because of the way Justin taught me. But that's why it's important. Justin today, the way Justin's helped me is that he's kept me out of trying to force trades because he always talks about discipline, psychology, and he talks about no news Mondays. It's being just kind of manipulation, kind of chop, not really good probable action that you kind of want to stay away from unless you get something A+, right? And there's nothing A+ today, so that means based on what I've learned, there's nothing I should have taken. So I did the right thing. Dodgy, same thing. I learned kind of which fair value gaps are going to work, what days are going to work, stuff like that. And that's just because you have to learn you have to figure out who you're learning from and find someone that really is going to teach you good stuff. So at this point, I will be on paper. There's no need for me to stress myself out in my actual funded and lose money or make money. There's no reason to be stressed today. There's 4 more trading days. You know, you have the rest of your life. The markets aren't going to change. They're not going to disappear today. And you know, let's wait until we get out of this bigger time frame range, because there's no high probability setup until we manipulate a high and we displace in one direction, because until then there's nothing to really do. So yeah, that's all I got today. And we'll see if I take a trade, I'll make another video later and go over what I took. But that's all I would say is about just knowing when and when not to trade and which days you're going to be having a probable setup.